My husband slammed the divorce papers onto the table and sprinted out to plead with the other woman. Of all nights, it poured with thunder and lightning, the kind of night you'd think the heavens might strike you down, and sure enough, he came back as nothing but a charred heap. I couldn't help but laugh as I flung money around. At 4 in the morning I went mad, hurling wads of cash at the crematorium so they'd light one more kiln. The next morning the other woman turned up at my doorstep with his child in tow. "Where's Luke Tham? Last night he told me he would come. Did you stop him again?" she sobbed. Begging. "He's about to divorce you. Our family worked so hard to be reunited. Please, spare us." The child stamped his foot and bellowed, "You wicked woman. My father belongs to me and my mother. You can't take him." They knocked over the urn. I leisurely took out a designer silk handkerchief, 30,000 a pop, and pretended to dab at a tear that had slipped out from laughing. "We're not fighting over him," I said. "Take him and go." The divorce hadn't even been signed yet, but the late man's hundreds of millions in assets were already neatly in my hands. Don't miss out. Subscribe to Hebe Audio for more great stories every day. The police called me to identify a body just as I was packing my things, getting ready to leave the villa forever. 6 months earlier, Luke Tham's company had finished a successful funding round and gone public. He'd become the city's newest rich man. I hadn't even had time to plan a celebration when the other woman brazenly showed up at my door with his child. I'd sold our house to bankroll Luke's startup. After 6 years of marriage he suddenly had an 8-year-old illegitimate son. The other woman kept repeating, like a broken record, "I'm Luke Tham's moonlight, I'm the only one he loves," and her child was already treated as the sole heir of the Luke clan. And Luke? In his eyes there was only her and that child. He demanded a divorce without hesitation. Even wanted me out with nothing. Of course I refused. The divorce fight dragged on for half a year. I did everything to gather proof of his affair during our marriage and the company's tax evasion. In the end I forced out only a third of the assets. Exhausted and out of patience, I signed the papers and left with hatred in my chest. If not for our daughter turning 3, I would have taken him with me. My thoughts were cut off by a phone call. I picked it up and heard, "This is True Sun Police. Are you Mrs. Luke Tham?" Even though we weren't officially divorced yet, I answered wearily, "Yes." "What is it?" My heart leapt. "Is that true?" Then the line went dead. I drove to the station with one thought looping in my head. Is he dead? An hour later the police led me into the forensic room and pointed at a blackened lump. "This is your husband," they said. The car had burned to a bare frame when they arrived. They'd checked thoroughly. No mechanical failure. No alcohol. No poison. He'd been struck by lightning and killed on the spot. I laughed. A wild, unbelieving sound. Luke Tham, that bastard, died on the very day I had wished he would. Had our divorce been finalized? No, we never registered the paperwork. So the agreement had no legal effect, meaning his hundreds of billions still legally belonged to me. They showed me highway CCTV, through the downpour. Luke sped on, head bowed over his phone, almost relaxed to the point of recklessness, as if death wasn't coming fast enough. He floored it, and a bolt of lightning struck the car dead on. The vehicle slammed into the guardrail, erupted in flames, and the silhouette inside went still. The blaze burned half an hour before the rain finally doused it and the police cleared the scene. Watching the footage, tension knotted my chest and then eased. Divine justice. I thought. Luke got what he deserved. Thank the heavens. I dabbed at a tear. Really. I was laughing so hard it leaked, and listened as the officers explained. He'd gone out to placate the other woman. She had a pull on him that made him reckless. Driving into the storm for her. For her, Luke was willing to hurt even his own daughter. Seeing their wary looks, I said bluntly, "If you doubt me, check the security cameras at Tung Hoi Villa for the past 6 months." I told them about the calls that sent him rushing through storms to buy her a box of buns. About last night when she couldn't sleep because of thunder and he had to be at her side. So he ran out and brought death back with him. The police and the techs reviewed half a year of footage. 30 minutes later they cleared me of suspicion. They looked at me with pity. "Mrs. Tong, you can go home. I'm sure you'll meet someone better." I smiled but didn't leave immediately. I asked them to speed up the death certificate so I could cancel Luke's household registration. A small favor they were willing to do since we were still legally married and I had the right. They gave me the crematorium's number. Even at 3 in the morning I called in. Generously. Offered 200,000 to have him burned right away. Money really is power. With cash in hand. Not even ghosts seem frightening. Half an hour later the hearse arrived. At 4 in the morning the crematorium ran at full blast and turned him to black ash in 30 minutes. I collected the urn and prepared to go home. The attendant asked if I wanted the ashes delivered. I glanced at my Maybach and gave a thumbs up. Yes. Please, do bring them. That car is beautiful and expensive. Luke didn't deserve the seat. By 5:30 my lawyer, the one who always took a little lubrication, had arrived. With an exorbitant fee he assured me he could secure a full inheritance. Recover assets Luke had transferred during the marriage. Handle the bank transfers this afternoon. And put the company under a management team since I had no wish to run it. I agreed and modestly accepted that he'd find a manager. Eat first. Then we'll go. There might be a show worth seeing later. I said, checking my watch. 8:35. The other woman would probably be here soon. Sure enough. While the lawyer and I talked, someone pounded at the door. Jiang Dao burst in, crying and accusing. Tong Kai. Where is Luke? He said he would come stay with me last night. Why didn't he show? Did you stop him again? He's about to divorce you. Our family worked so hard to be reunited. I beg you. Leave us alone. Every line dripping with feigned hurt. She painted herself as the wronged party while the truth was that they'd conspired to deceive me. After she had the nerve to demand I vacate my place as Mrs. Luke, I hired a private detective. The findings revolted me. They were childhood friends. She'd chased another rich kid in university and been dumped. Then circled back to Luke, learning he was borrowing money from me. She planned a pregnancy and bore Luke Lai Bao to trap him. When I'd sold my parents' house to rescue his company, I'd taken an investment contract and gained shares, but once the company went public, my stake was diluted and Luke turned on me, cutting me off completely. People like Luke deserve the sky to punish them with lightning. Smack. Luke Lai Bao, that spoiled 8-year-old raised without limits, kicked the little tea table across the room and jabbed a finger in my face. Roaring, you wicked woman, my father belongs to my mother and me, you can't take him. The table shuddered. The urn toppled with a clink and a scatter of black ash dusted the floor. He turned up his nose, stamped on the spill and spat. You disgusting woman, this will be my home one day. Why would you bring this filthy thing here? I smiled inwardly but kept my face calm. I sipped my coffee and replied slowly. Filthy? This is your father. Can't you recognize him? Jiang Dao burst into tears, eyes full of accusation. Tong Kai, even if Luke wants a divorce, you didn't have to wish him dead like this. You two were married 6 years. If you've lost your feelings, at least show some decency for your daughter. Lawyer Lu, a man who put family above all, couldn't stand the child being used as a shield. His expression froze. This is indeed Luke's ashes. If you want blessings, don't destroy another family or spoil your child. That's real merit. He shot Jiang Dao a contemptuous look. Women like you squander ancestral luck. Sooner or later you'll get your comeuppance. Jiang Dao's eyes reddened as she tried to retort. No, I don't believe he's dead. He called me last night. Said you two had already signed the papers. How could he die in a few hours and already be cremated? If he's dead, you must have killed him. She snatched up her phone with a threatening voice. I'll call the police and have you jailed. Go ahead, I said coolly. I dialed the emergency number and reported tersely. Someone broke into my house. Desecrated my husband's ashes. Her son abused and harassed us. Caused emotional harm. Then I hung up and smiled at Jiang Dao. The police will be here soon. Tell them how I murdered Luke. If you like. My composure unhinged her. She glanced at the blackened ashes on the floor. Eyes wild. Ashes should be gray-white, not black. Tong Kai, didn't you even prepare your lies properly? She was counting on the signed divorce to mean the house belonged to her. But the truth was raw and unreal. Luke was dead. And sometimes I still felt like I was in a dream. I dabbed my lips with a designer silk handkerchief and looked at Lawyer Lu. Mr. Lu, please explain the law to her. Without hesitation he laid it out, even if papers were signed. Until the registration is complete the marriage remains legal. This house belongs to Ms. Tong. Your trespass and property damage can be punished administratively. Desecrating ashes is an offense that can carry criminal charges. Jiang Dao's face went pale. Her lips split before she could recover. Luke Lai Bao scooped up a fistful of ashes and hurled them at me, screaming, "You wicked woman, don't bully my mother." Ash flew everywhere. Reflexively, I knocked my coffee cup forward. The dark coffee swirled into the ash and splattered across the boy's face. He howled, clutching his face and rolling on the floor. "Wah! Daddy, that wicked woman is bullying me. I want Daddy." He writhed in the ash, rubbing until the black cloud rose again. Jiang Dao clutched him and cried, "I don't believe Luke is dead. I didn't break into your house. I only came to find him." But the wail of sirens outside drowned her protests. The police entered, and I made no move to soften things. Before they reached us, I leaned close to Jiang Dao and whispered, "Cool as ice. Last night Luke went out to soothe you. He was struck by lightning on the way. That's why the ashes look like this." I smiled. Each word felt like a blade. "If you hadn't made a fuss, you would have been Mrs. Luke in a few days. You were one step away." Anger turned her hands into claws. She lunged to choke me, screaming, "You bitch! You killed Luke. I'll see you in prison." As the police rushed in, my smile vanished and I called for help. "Help! My husband's dead. The mistress came to kill him." Most people despise mistresses, and the female officer, sympathetic, decisive, subdued Jiang Dao with force. She was restrained, sobbing and denouncing us. But the officer's voice was cool. "We recorded the entire intervention. You may press charges." Lawyer Liu spoke up, stern, laying out the legal consequences for disorderly conduct and slander. The officer's hard stance and his words finally shrank Jiang Dao down to a frightened, apologetic figure. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I just couldn't accept this." Still, she clung to one last accusation. "His father called me a few hours ago. He was fine." That made the officers glance with a flicker of doubt. But I answered with perfect composure, "Fine. Then let's go to the station and see who ends up detained, you or me." The surveillance footage of last night's lightning strike was played again. Each face told its own story. Lawyer Liu and the officers stared in stunned disbelief, while Jiang Dao's face turned as black as the ashes themselves. As for me, I had to bite the inside of my cheek to keep from bursting into laughter in front of everyone. "Well," I said lightly, "do you have anything left to say? Luke Tham died by lightning. Plain and simple." That shattered the pitiful, white lotus act Jiang Dao had been clinging to. Clutching Luke Lai Bao to her chest, her eyes blazed as she screeched, "Luke Tham is dead. I'm entitled to half of his estate. Lai Bao is his son. Even an illegitimate child has inheritance rights. You have to share with me." She squeezed the boy so hard his face turned scarlet, and he bawled as the police pulled him away. The scene dissolved into chaos. I gave her a cold, detached glance. "Yes, illegitimate children do have rights, if you can prove he's Luke's son." "Got an ADN test? No? Well, it's a little late now. Luke has already been burned to ash." The truth was, she had nothing. Luke had trusted her blindly, never asking for proof, just waiting to finalize the divorce and marry her so Lai Bao could be acknowledged. That fantasy had gone up in flames with him. I'd ordered the cremation at 4 in the morning precisely for this moment. Leaning back in my chair, watching Jiang Dao's face pale from fury and helplessness, I felt utterly at ease. I stretched, brushed the faint red mark on my neck where she'd tried to choke me, then stood with a razor-sharp smile. "If you have proof Lai Bao is Luke's son, or evidence I killed him, hand it over to the police. Otherwise, discuss your trespassing and assault charges with my lawyer. The law will decide. I have other matters, I'll be going." This afternoon I still needed to visit the bank to transfer the estate into my name. The sooner, the better. Lawyer Liu rose beside me, his tone firm. "Ms. Tong, leave everything to me." I nodded. "Once it's done, there's a bonus in it for you." Leaving the station, I drove straight to the bank with all the prepared paperwork. In 3 to 15 business days, every asset and share Luke owned would be under my name. Waiting was nothing. I had no intention of sitting idle. From there, I went to the secret apartment Luke had purchased in silence. The place he'd stashed antiques and gold. Clever of him. choosing a discreet flat with tight security. Inside, jade vases, gold bars, and gemstone jewelry filled the rooms. I lifted a gold-framed jadeite necklace, laughter spilling from my lips. Luke Tham, this must have been the wedding gift you meant for Jiang Dao. Allow me to accept it on her behalf. Ever since she barged into my life, I'd had Luke investigated down to the marrow. These treasures were meant for her and her brat. I had no grand ambitions, no taste for business, but betrayal demands repayment. He deceived me, so why should he rest in peace even in death? Originally, I'd planned to sue him for asset transfers after the divorce, strip off one more layer of his skin. But now, everything was mine. I swept up the jewels, the antiques, the gold, and sent them straight to the bank vault. Then I went to his company, walked into finance, and ordered every tax record put in order, every unpaid cent corrected. I refused to inherit a scandal. With matters tied up neatly, I finally went to fetch my daughter. Just a week ago, I'd thrown her a lavish birthday party, inviting all her little friends. I hadn't told Luke she hadn't wanted to see the father who never cared for her. But that day, Luke had barged in with Jiang Dao and Lai Bao. The boys shoved my daughter, jeering, "This is my house. You're just a leech who spends money. What right do you have to hold a party here? I'm the only son, the true heir of the Luke family. Get lost." Those venomous words were clearly fed to him by Jiang Dao, meant to shatter my daughter's pride. And Luke? He just stood there, watching smugly, letting his precious son humiliate his flesh and blood. In front of everyone, he demanded divorce again, urged me to step aside. That day broke me. I shredded the illusion of civility, threw down my evidence, and had my lawyer confront him directly. To protect my child, I'd sent her away. Who could have guessed heaven itself would strike him down, sparing me the trouble? At 7 in the evening, humming to myself, I drove to pick her up. But the moment she saw the road leading back to the villa, her smile dimmed. My little girl, Luke Tin, clutched her seatbelt tight. Her voice small. "Mom, I'm scared." My chest tightened. The scars of those past humiliations still shadowed her. Perhaps I should sell the villa soon. Take her somewhere safe. I stopped the car at the gate, stroked her hair, and whispered, "Don't be afraid, sweetheart. I promise, you'll never have to see your father again. No one will bully you anymore." She bit her finger, eyes bright with trust. She was about to nod when suddenly her face went pale. A bad man? I followed her gaze, and there was Luke Duong, Luke Tham's half-brother, standing with Lai Bao, his round, fleshy face twisted, brows knotted like hairy caterpillars. He banged on my window, voice sharp and hostile, out of the car. My expression hardened instantly. Of course, with lawyer Lu pressing hard and Jiang Dao in detention, it was no surprise Luke Duong dragged Lai Bao here, all for money. But he'd get nothing, not a single coin. I ignored his shouts, stepped on the gas. The car shot forward. Cowardly Luke Duong stumbled back, cursing furiously. "God damn you. Tong Kai, trying to kill me? You whore, you think you can swallow all my brother's assets? Just wait, I'll make you pay." In the rearview mirror his greedy face made me want to retch. Back home, I immediately called security. Whether it's Luke Duong, Lai Bao, or Jiang Dao, none of them are ever to set foot inside. In the past, thanks to Luke's orders, mother and son could slip in and out. But Duong was different, same father, different mother, once taken care of by Luke with a management job. Worthless, debauched, gambling, women, even harassing me. He didn't last long before stealing 30 million for a bet and nearly causing a scandal with his harassment of a colleague. The mess forced Luke to throw him out, ban him from the house. Every time I remembered the hunger in his eyes, the lecherous way he looked at me, my resolve sharpened. I had to destroy him. And conveniently, I held the evidence that could finish him. In the days that followed, Luke Duong came daily, stringing banners outside the villa, making a circus. I didn't call the police. I didn't call the lawyers. I wanted it to ferment. Instead, it was lawyer Lu who phoned me first. "Ms. Tong, Luke Duong and Lai Bao are live streaming outside your gate every day, accusing you of killing Luke Tham and stealing his estate. They're even claiming you're protected by connections, that you can kill without consequence. If you want to sue, I'll give you a discount, 12% off. Only 88% of my usual fee. From the day Luke Duong began his circus, 2 weeks had crawled by, and the slander against me had spread like wildfire across the internet. When the timing felt ripe, I nodded over the phone. Do it. Draft the lawsuit. Lu Ju's voice crackled with excitement as he accepted. I hung up, gathered the evidence, and stepped out of the villa gates. The street was swarming with gawkers. Luke Duong's shrill voice cut through the noise. Thanks to our dear bunny girl for the luxury yacht. Come, my precious nephew, give everyone a dance. Pushing forward, I saw Lai Bao wriggling like a fool while Luke Duong performed for the livestream, spinning his tale of how I murdered his brother with full conviction. Behind him, a glaring red banner screamed, Tong Kai, cruel and heartless. Justice for my brother. Expose the corrupt protection she enjoys. He shouted until his throat went raw, acting the grieving brother, rallying the crowd in the name of justice for the weak. Calling me a murderer who'd stolen the inheritance, insisting Lai Bao was Luke's rightful heir. I stepped up, my voice slicing like a blade. Justice? What is it you want? For me to hand everything to you? Or to Lai Bao? You claim he's my husband's son. Where's the DNA test? None? Then it's too late now. Luke was cremated at 4 this morning. And honestly, the boy looks more like you than him. What if he's your son? In case you forgot, brothers and nephews don't count as heirs. On what grounds do you demand my money? The crowd froze. Their eyes darted between Duong's broad, brutish face and the boy's copy of it. Compared to Luke Tham, the resemblance was painfully clear. For a flash, panic flickered in Duong's eyes before he barked louder, whipping his phone back toward me, frothing about corrupt umbrellas protecting me. A few gullible onlookers cheered along. I let out a cold laugh and pulled out a thick folder, evidence of Duong's vices. His gambling, his women, his ruinous debts, and the worst of all, a video from a dashboard camera. It showed him cornered by loan sharks. His parents stepped forward to beg for mercy. Tattooed men snarled about chopping off his fingers. In terror, he shoved his own mother into the blade. Blood spattered. His father screamed, "Run!" The footage cut there. The crowd went silent as stone. This file had been buried in Luke's safe, once. Blackmailers had tried to sell it to him. He paid $50 million to bury it, a stain too damning to surface when his company was listed. Duong's lips trembled. Then he roared, "Tong Kai, you dare dig into me?" He lunged, reaching for my hair. I shifted back half a step and drove my 8-centimeter heel square into his groin. He collapsed with a strangled howl. I looked straight into the livestream camera, calm as ice. A man who shoved his own mother to her death. And you still believe him? If I truly killed someone, would the police let me walk free while you scream online every day? A murmur spread. Yeah, if it were true. Wouldn't the cops have hauled her in by now? I dialed right there. Hello, I'd like to report defamation and death threats. Then I swept the crowd with a glare. Anyone who slanders me today will be served legal papers. Especially those who dragged my daughter into it. I'll make sure you regret it for life. In the end, Luke Duong was jailed for attempted murder, defamation, and disturbing public order. My name flipped from infamy to vindication overnight. Riding the wave, I went live myself. I told the whole saga, love, betrayal, revenge, before millions. Luke's company should have collapsed under the scandal. But with him struck down by heaven's hand, the empire was mine. The management team polished my image as the new chairwoman, turning the storm into a spotlight. Revenue climbed. I needed only to appear on stream, toss a few scathing remarks, and money poured in. Life had never been sweeter. As for Jiang Dao, when her temporary detention ended, she dragged Lai Bao back to my door demanding money. Without Luke's body, she demanded a kinship test between my daughter and her boy, hoping to force shared custody and half the fortune. But I had prepared the final blow, a DNA test. Between Lai Bao and Luke Duong. The result? Father and son. Luke Tham had been raising his brother's child for 8 years. The day I received the report, I laughed until I nearly fainted. I printed hundreds of copies and drove to Luke's grave, burning them sheet by sheet, a cruel little tribute. When I revealed it, Jiang Dao lost her mind, muttering, "No, it can't be. Duong, He forced me. He threatened me, while Lai Bao cried in confusion, clutching at her skirts. For a moment I stood silent, remembering how Duan once leered and pawed at me. Then hearing her claim of coercion, maybe it was true. But what did it matter to me? Evil reaps evil. From that day forward, I never saw them again. Rumor had it Jiang Dao wandered the streets, deranged, while Lai Bao was sent to an orphanage.